You know you wanna. Your unhappiness is obvious. You despise his creepy little monkey fingers touching your hand. Finally, new rule, Melania Trump must do what dozens of buildings around the world have done and take the Trump name off. No more public embarrassment, no more porn stars, no more stealing your makeup. All you have to do is channel your inner Taylor Swift and walk out the door.
He looks like he's being held together with presidential duct tape. Bill Maher's brutal takedown of Trump's marriage wasn't just funny, it was surgical. The audience roared as Maher dissected the obvious tension between Donald and Melania. But when Jim Carrey stepped in with his spot-on Trump impression, complete with pouty lips and tiny hands, the orange man couldn't handle it. Trump's phone must have melted from his furious tweeting. Want to see exactly what jokes made Trump lose his mind? Let's break down this comedy masterclass. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Ever wonder what makes Trump's skin go from orange to red? Bill Maher found the secret. Just mention his failing marriage. The late-night comedian absolutely destroyed Trump with a precision roast that left the former president fuming. Maher didn't just throw out random jokes. He crafted a methodical takedown that hit Trump right where it hurts most, his public image. The setup was brilliant in its simplicity. Maher kicked things off by playing a supercut of all those awkward moments when Melania swatted away Trump's hand in public.
Getting men to change their destructive ways by threatening to leave them, humiliate them, or cut them off in bed, it's a tale as old as time. Melania, you can end this reign of terror, and all you have to do is channel your inner Taylor Swift and walk out the door. Is there anyone left who can check Donald Trump? Yes, Melania.
You know the ones. Those painful to watch clips where Trump reaches for her hand and she dodges it like she's avoiding a mosquito. The audience was already cringing because these weren't staged moments or exaggerations. They were actual footage that we've all seen but don't usually talk about directly. Have you noticed how Melania acts around Donald? Maher asked the audience with that signature smirk. Their marriage looks like it's held together with presidential duct tape. The audience went dead silent for a second before erupting into uncomfortable laughter. That moment of hesitation said everything. They knew Maher was touching on something real. The comedian then showed a series of photos where Melania's face transforms from a model smile to a look of pure disgust the moment Trump looks away from the cameras. The side-by-side comparison had the audience howling because it wasn't comedy writing. It was just observing reality. Maher simply pointed out what we all see whenever the couple appears in public. Their relationship reminds me of a hostage situation where the captor thinks it's a romance, Maher quipped, causing the audience to roar with laughter. The joke landed so hard because it perfectly captured the weird power dynamic that's painfully obvious between Trump and his wife. Every joint appearance they make seems forced, staged, and uncomfortable. What made Maher's routine particularly effective was how he layered his comedy with actual substance. It wasn't just Trump bad humor, it was highlighting genuine contradictions. The weird thing about political marriages is they're supposed to humanize candidates, but Trump's marriage seems to have the opposite effect, making him look even more detached from normal human relationship. Maher built tension in the room when he shifted to asking why evangelical Christians still support Trump despite all evidence pointing to a loveless marriage. "I've got a question for the evangelicals," Maher said with perfect timing. "Why do you support a guy who cheated on all 3 wives and paid hush money to a porn star?" This wasn't just a random dig. It was a carefully constructed setup highlighting the hypocrisy of Trump's supporter base and the contradictions in their professed values. The payoff came when Maher delivered his knockout punch. He didn't just mock the marriage, he exposed it as what many suspect it truly is. Let's call it what it is. A business arrangement disguised as a marriage. It's the least convincing love story since Beauty and the Beast. The line cut through all the pretense and named what many observers have long thought but rarely stated so bluntly on national television. What makes this joke particularly devastating is that it connects to a deeper truth about Trump himself, the man who built his entire brand on appearing successful while many of his businesses were failing. His marriage follows the same pattern. It looks like a relationship on the surface, but functions like a contract underneath. And having that pointed out on national television by a comedian must have been infuriating for someone as image-conscious as Trump. The audience was still catching their breath from Maher's verbal assassination when he introduced his next guest, who would take the roast to an entirely different level. "Ladies and gentlemen," Maher announced with obvious delight, "please welcome a man who knows a thing or two about masks, Jim Carrey."
It's hard to understand what's going on. I mean, I really, one minute you feel like, oh my gosh, this is going to be, now the landslide's going to start. And then there'll be some other weaselly little, sidestep they do. Or you can make a bad decision about a candidate. It's not who you are. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're different. It doesn't mean, the trouble with what's happening right now is these, this administration is a rabid dog, and it's turning us upside down. And all, as far as I'm concerned, it's as obvious as the nose on your face.
The brilliance of Maher's approach wasn't just that he made fun of Trump. Plenty of comedians do that. What set this apart was how methodically he dismantled the facade Trump worked so hard to maintain. By focusing on the marriage specifically, Maher attacked something Trump can't easily defend without making it worse. If Trump ignores it, it seems true. If he defends it too strongly, he looks desperate. And if Melania doesn't back him up convincingly, which she rarely does, it only reinforces Maher's point. Just when Maher finished dismantling Trump's marriage facade, Jim Carrey stepped onto the stage and took the comedy to an entirely different universe. What happened next wasn't just another celebrity Trump impression. It was a full-body transformation so complete that audience members couldn't decide whether to laugh or gasp. Carrey didn't just mimic Trump's voice, he crawled into Trump's skin, hunching his shoulders, pursing his lips into that distinctive grimace, and deploying those tiny hand gestures that had the crowd absolutely losing it.
You got to speak, man. This is not a time to clam up, and not a time to get frightened. You have to do what you have to do. This is dire. I just want to express it in a positive way. I want to turn everything painful into art.
You react to the pipe bombs. Are you afraid personally ever?
Apparently, I was threatened on Twitter, so I don't know. I didn't see the thing. I heard there was, some severed goat head, and I'll see you soon, kind of thing.
The physical comedy alone would have been enough, but Carrey was just warming up. When he opened his mouth and perfectly captured Trump's rambling speech pattern, the audience nearly fell out of their seats. A lot of people are saying, "Best marriage, perfect marriage, Melania loves me so much, folks, you wouldn't believe it, more than anyone's ever been loved before," Carrey blurted out in classic Trump stream of consciousness style. The brilliance wasn't just in the words, but in how Carrey nailed Trump's tendency to veer off onto random tangents while constantly circling back to boast about things nobody believes. What took the impression from funny to painfully accurate was when Carrey acted out Trump desperately grabbing for Melania's hand. Have you ever seen someone perfectly capture the awkward mixture of neediness and entitlement? That's what Carrey delivered. He lunged for an imaginary hand while making increasingly desperate facial expressions, all while maintaining that fake confidence Trump projects. The audience was practically wheezing with laughter because they'd seen this exact scenario play out on camera multiple times. But Carrey somehow made it even more real by exaggerating it just enough. But the real showstopper came when Carrey suddenly switched characters. Without missing a beat, he transformed into Melania, capturing her squinty-eyed model pose with such precision that people in the back row could tell exactly who he was mimicking. His body language completely changed, from Trump's aggressive forward lean to Melania's rigid defensive posture.
I can break bread with anybody in this country. I love people in this country. I love the heartland of this country. It has nothing to do with that. These really negative forces like the Steve Bannons of the world are convincing us that we're separate. that we're not the same country, that there's two countries. There's not two countries. It has to do with, it's become obvious that the choice was a bad one. We just need to change it. And if you can't vote for a Democrat, at least let all this flood of information that's so negative.
When he spoke in her accented monotone, you could have heard a pin drop before the laughter erupted again. The impression turned brutal when Carrey as Melania began muttering about counting days until contract expires, and referring to her marriage as a prison sentence with good accessories. The audience's laughter had that uncomfortable edge that comes when comedy hits too close to reality. Carrey had tapped into something everyone suspected, but rarely heard stated so bluntly. That behind the designer sunglasses and official photos was a woman playing a role until the final curtain. What made Carrey's performance truly devastating wasn't just the comedy, it was how effortlessly he exposed the neediness and insecurity beneath Trump's bombastic exterior. Every gesture, every vocal inflection revealed the desperate man behind the bluster. You couldn't watch without thinking, oh my God, that's exactly what Trump is like when the cameras aren't supposed to be watching. The comedian built to an absolute crescendo when he portrayed Trump's reaction to criticism. Carrey's face turned red, his movements became jerky and erratic, and he acted out a scene of advisors physically restraining Trump from grabbing his phone while he shouted increasingly unhinged threats. The audience was in tears, partly from laughter and partly from the uncomfortable recognition that this probably wasn't far from reality. Within hours, clips of Carrey's performance had spread across every social media platform imaginable. The unfiltered brutality of the impression made it catnip for sharing. And before Trump's team could even formulate a response, the videos had racked up millions of views.
Makes me feel good.
When you were a kid, would you draw caricatures of your friends, etc.?
I did. I drew pictures of my teacher.
Oh, really?
And I don't have any of those with me. She actually stole. Wow, look at this! I can do anything with it. Not working. Oh, they got you coming and going, man. You know what I mean?
That is remarkable, I have to say.
Incredible transformation.
It is an incredible transformation. Who was the teacher
Watch
you drew?
this.
Oh, yeah, all right.
What might have been a forgettable late-night TV moment had transformed into a cultural event that would dominate conversation for days. But perhaps the most cutting part of Carrey's impression came at the very end. Still in character as Trump, he predicted exactly how the real Trump would respond, with the best spelling, tremendous spelling, in all caps tweets calling Carrey loser comedian who nobody watches anymore sad. The audience howled because they knew it was true. Carrey even mimicked Trump's bizarre punctuation habits and random capitalization, setting the stage perfectly for the actual meltdown that was practically guaranteed to follow. As if summoned by Carrey's mockery, Trump's fingers found his phone in the pre-dawn darkness of Mar-a-Lago. What followed wasn't just a predictable tantrum, it was a nuclear-level meltdown that perfectly validated every joke the comedians had made about him. The first digital explosion hit Twitter at exactly 3:17 a.m., when most of America was sound asleep. Bill Maher, Carrey's failed comedian with no ratings. Jim Carrey hasn't made a good movie in 20 years. Washed-up losers trying to stay relevant. Notice what was missing. Not a single word defending his marriage or addressing the actual jokes. Classic Trump deflection. Attack the messenger, ignore the message. By 4:30 a.m., Trump had fired off 12 more tweets, each angrier than the last. The caps lock key was clearly stuck as he typed, "Jealous Hollywood elites wish they had a beautiful wife like Melania. Our marriage is perfect, the best marriage. Many people are saying it." Nothing says my marriage is solid like screaming about it on social media at 4 a.m. while your wife sleeps in a separate bedroom. The early morning tweet storm had all the hallmarks of an authentic Trump tantrum: random capitalization, excessive exclamation points, and spelling errors that would make a third-grade teacher reach for the red pen. These losers don't know anything about marriage. Fake news and jalouse haters. One particular tweet left even his supporters confused. Melanie and me are happy. Unlike Carrey, who probably doesn't even have a wife. Melanie? The man couldn't even spell his own wife's name correctly. Trump's digital tirade took a brief 45-minute pause around 5:30 a.m., leading many to suspect his staff had finally managed to wrestle the phone away from him. But at 6:15, the account exploded back to life with tweets that read like they were written by different people. Some were almost coherent with proper grammar and punctuation, while others immediately reverted to the all-caps rage. The stark contrast made it obvious his team was frantically trying to control the damage, occasionally succeeding in posting something presidential-sounding before Trump grabbed his phone back. Republican allies scrambled to defend their leader, but kept stepping on digital landmines. Senator Lindsey Graham appeared on Fox and Friends at 7 a.m., attempting to redirect the conversation. These attacks on the former president's personal life are disgusting and beneath the dignity of... But when pressed about specific jokes regarding Melania swatting Trump's hand away, Graham awkwardly chuckled and said, "Well, all couples have their little moments, don't they?" Not exactly a ringing endorsement. Trump's social media director tried damage control by posting a series of photos showing Donald and Melania in happier times. Unfortunately, internet sleuths quickly pointed out that every single image predated his presidency. One particularly unfortunate choice showed them at a 2015 gala, which eagle-eyed Twitter users recognized as the same event where Trump had reportedly met Stormy Daniels. The meltdown reached peak absurdity when Trump tweeted a bizarre challenge. "I have the best marriage, better than Maher, who's been divorced 74 times, and Carrey, who nobody loves. I challenge them to a marriage contest anytime, anywhere." What exactly a marriage contest might entail remained unclear, but the internet responded with memes imagining a reality show where contestants competed to look the most miserable while holding their spouse's hand. By mid-morning, news channels had abandoned their planned coverage to focus entirely on Trump's digital meltdown. CNN's Chiron simply read, "Trump's 7-hour Twitter tantrum proves comedian's point." MSNBC brought in body language experts to analyze the clips Maher had shown, while Fox News hosts desperately tried to change the subject to gas prices. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. What might have been a one-night comedy bit on a cable show was now the biggest story in America. Each furious tweet only amplified the original jokes, sending millions more viewers to watch the clips of Maher and Carrey that they might have otherwise missed. Conservative media figures found themselves in an impossible position. Defending the marriage meant discussing it, which only extended the news cycle. Tucker Carlson attempted a novel approach, claiming the jokes were actually a deep-state psychological operation designed to distract from Biden's failures, which somehow managed to make everything even weirder. By noon, Maher had responded with a single tweet. "Thanks for the ratings boost, Donald," while Carrey simply posted a sketch he'd drawn of Trump angrily tweeting while sitting on a toilet, his face contorted in the exact expression Carrey had mimicked. So here's what we've learned, folks. Comedy isn't just for laughs. When comedians like Maher and Carrey hold up a mirror to powerful people, they often reveal more truth than CNN's most serious reporters. And Trump's total meltdown just proved it. That's the beauty of political humor. It strips away the fancy suits and teleprompters and shows us who these people really are. Next time you see a politician lose their mind over a joke, remember they're not mad because it's false. They're mad because it's true. Want more breakdowns of comedy's power to make the powerful squirm? Hit that subscribe button.